let's get started. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm Jan Greenhoe, one of the assistant principals here, and a lot of things are changing. As you know from being in Power School, lots of things are evolving. What we wanted to focus on tonight is something different that we've done compared to what we've done in the past, and it's a focus on transitioning to the next grade level rather than full academics only, because a lot of things, what's the focus of each grade level is different. So tonight we have with us teachers, one of our counseling staff, Ms. Parham, and we're going to focus and present to you some of the most important things for rising sophomores. We are approaching registration season now, and our goal is registration will be ready for you, your student, to be registering in Power School on March 1st. Once we have the information, I do not have the login information and the how-tos yet, but once that's ready, I will be providing those, sending those home with your student. Also, Buncombe County is working on a district-wide course catalog that will be available, and it will represent courses that are taught in Buncombe County across all the different high schools. In the month of March as well, our counselors, we will be doing advisement and meeting with homerooms by grade levels beginning the 1st of March, and counselors will be meeting during Study Smart and working with students and advisement on their course selections for next year. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to contact our counseling department. One thing that I would like to tell you is once your child leaves the academy, we do advisement from counseling perspective, and then administration dealing with any discipline or curriculum areas. We do it by alpha groups. And we have 3 counselors that work with alpha groups. One is the beginning A through F will be Michelle Eldridge, and Mr. Chris Collins is the administrator. And G through M, we have Bobby Parker is the administrator, and then Michelle Wagaman is the counselor. And then N through Z, that would be Melanie Parham, who's be here with you tonight, and then I'm the administrator for that group. So that's one shift that's different for you rather than having a grade level administrator and counselor. Let me start with introducing the staff on stage. Peter Carpenter from Social Studies, Kevin Keene from Science, Brian Fide from Social Studies, Jim Galloway from Career Technical Education, Mary Smith, and then Jill Sizemore are from Career Technical Education, Chris Semper from Foreign Language, Maura Scott from CTE, Career Technical Education, Nathan Arvey from the Math Department, Mandy Boyd from the Math Department, Andy Morgan from Health PE Department, Andy Devine from English, Tom Bell from ROTC, and Irina Patain from our Arts Department. These folks are going to very quickly introduce you to their departments tonight and make some suggestions and highlight important things about what's going on in their departments. Again, you're welcome to contact me, counselors, or any of these staff members or other staff members here at Roberson with any questions you may have. And again, thank you for joining us tonight. And Ms. Parham.
First of all, I'm really excited to see everyone here tonight, and I hope you get a lot of useful information. The first thing I want to say is the PowerPoint's going to be uploaded to the counseling website tomorrow, so I'm going to move quickly, just because we've been working all day. And so we are going to move quickly through it, so don't feel like you've missed something. When I go through it, it is going to be on our website. So your student is changing, so there's going to be a lot of changes coming up that maybe you don't anticipate and maybe you do. Some of those things, they're going to have a larger school to navigate. And so we do have a lot of staff members for support, but at the same time, they're going to have a lot of new responsibilities that they did not have this year. They may be seeking out their license. They may have classes with more older students than what they have had this year. And so we really need to keep in contact and really communicate with each other. The academic adjustments, and I got a lot of this information both from students that have made this transition already, so sophomores and juniors, and also some of these teachers that teach students that are sophomores. And so academically, tougher curriculum, less structure or support systems, different schedule, and so they have the 90 minutes, and they're, instead of doing the A day, B day, when they come into the regular school, they'll be doing 90-minute classes all day long, 4 periods a semester. And so they have less time to build a grade, only 18 weeks to do so. Our students today are digital learners, so very different from what you and I did even 10 or 15 years ago. Our students have grown up seeing everything in a digital format. So their learning experiences are going to be quite different. And so they are going to be more used to multitasking. They're going to expect multimedia, and our teachers are on board with giving them these different avenues to learn with. And so that's why it's so important that they get involved in some of our CTE classes, and they really use their technology skills that they have in order to apply that to learning. And so we're trying to integrate all of that. Some students and some parents feel like sophomore year, I'm free and I need to move on and be very independent. And while that is the case, it's also very important to stay connected. We really want you to email us. We want you to stay on board with PowerSchool. We want you to notify us when you're seeing changes in your student. We need your help teaching them to be successful adults. So there are a lot of different skill sets that we may not really think about on a day-to-day basis. But these are some of the things that we really feel like are important for your students to really have a strong grasp of. And a lot of these things that are on here are very important because we'll also be talking about these in terms of college and how using an extracurricular activity will not only help your student to stay organized and motivated, but will help them to access some colleges as well. Make sure during this process, when we're getting ready to do registration, it's going to be very, very important that you communicate with the teachers and counselors. Get their opinion. Make sure if your student's in a class and they're coming home this year and saying, wow, that's way too easy, communicate with the teacher and say, is this material way too easy? How can I enhance my students' learning? How can I enhance their curriculum? Help them set up goals. Make sure that you're in constant communication about how they can set up not only just long-term goals, but short-term goals on a weekly or even daily basis. And then they need to start self-assessing. And so this is a really hard time. And the reason I bring this up during registration is because they need to know themselves, to know why they're picking the classes that they are. They need to start thinking about, am I going to go on for post-secondary education? Am I going to try to achieve a personal goal? Am I trying to increase my earning power? What am I doing in order to take these harder classes or to take a class that I may just be interested in? All of these are provided so that your student can find some skill sets. And then why would they start the college process now? So you all are sitting here as parents of freshmen. College requirements have increased. So if you've had older students, any of you in here have older students that have already graduated? Have you all seen an increase in rigor? Y'all are a quiet group. Y'all can talk and ask questions, that's the way. But things are increasing, and so each year we are seeing the requirements for college getting a little more rigorous, and so we want your students to be prepared to get where they want to be. And so the job market is requiring more education, more computer skills, because they have the expectation that your students have those. And you may not believe it, but I have students come in to my office that are still intimidated by computers. So as much as they've been around technology, some students still don't have that confidence. So we've got to build that in our students. By the year 2018, 63% of the job market will require some kind of college education, whether that's an associate's degree, whether that's a certificate, whether that's a bachelor's degree. They are going to require college education. And you can see by this chart, and I know the numbers are really small, but it's also important to note that more education in most careers are going to equal more money. And so again, we're just trying to make sure that everyone understands the reason behind going ahead and making sure that they're taking rigorous classes and challenging themselves. And so some of the post-secondary options I just mentioned: work, apprenticeship programs, military, proprietary schools, four-year universities, public and private. So there are a lot of options for your students to consider. While you all are looking, there are also a lot of things to look at and to weigh out. Each college has a different personality. So making sure that you look at those colleges to make sure that they fit in with the needs of your student. Not everyone is going to be able to go to a college that has 30,000 different students. It's important to make sure, if you know that your student is more reserved or needs more one-on-one assistance, we need to find a college that matches that need. And two, we need to make sure that your student is using a variety of resources, that they're talking to a variety of these teachers that went to a lot of different colleges. They're talking to you, they're talking to your friends, they're talking to your colleagues. And so they're looking at different websites, different books, different mediums, not just the college website, in order to get the best information. And so that research takes a lot of time. Some of the teachers do great projects in class to start your student doing college research. But it's really important that they're doing this from home, that you all are setting foot on college campuses. And this in turn will help motivate your student in order to do better in their classrooms, because they're going to see that this is a tangible, achievable goal. It's concrete. They know what it's like at a college campus. And then what are colleges looking at? Number one, they're looking at curriculum. So did your student challenge themselves? It's great to make straight A's. It's great to take all standard classes, and that's fine. However, in order to get into certain rigorous colleges, that's not going to be enough, even with straight A's. So they're going to have to take more rigorous classes. That may be including a language into their studies. A language not required for graduation, but it is required to get into a four-year university. It may mean that they select some honors classes or some AP classes. And next year will be their first opportunity to step into AP land. And so we'll talk about that in a moment from our social studies department. Number two, how did they perform in those classes that they chose? Because there is a balance between choosing hard classes. And I see every year students struggling with that balance because they've chosen either really, really hard classes and too many hard classes to balance and to be successful. So it's causing a lot of sleepless nights or causing a lot of stress for the students. So find that balance with your students so they can also be successful with a strong GPA. And number three, the test scores, SAT and ACT. By the time your students start taking the SAT, it's going to change. There's going to be a new SAT coming up, and they will start taking that junior year, but it's going to be a revised version. Every once in a while, students will take it as a sophomore if you're trying to get into a special program or something like that, but we can certainly answer questions about that on an individual basis. But it is changing. And then number four, extracurricular activities. So building that resume, making sure that your students are involved in extracurricular activities. So as far as curriculum goes, and again, that's what we're discussing tonight, making sure that they're building a transcript. They must have 28 credits in order to graduate. They can graduate early, so they could have 28 credits by midway through their senior year. So in January, they could actually graduate from high school. They could even graduate even earlier than that if there is a plan and they take some classes even during the summer or as a fifth period. So again, we can discuss some of those options. They get 1 credit per past course, and their grade point average is important. Their grade point average does not affect them as far as graduating, but it does affect them, as I'll show you in just a minute, about whether they're going to be able to get into a university or not. And they have a lot of choices. You and your students have a lot of choices about which route they go and how rigorous of a curriculum they create. The 10th grade schedule, as I mentioned before, are 90-minute periods, 4 classes each semester. The required courses, and these are changing a little bit. So if you have students, even if you have a current sophomore, again, these are changing. So English 2 is staying the same. But then they will take either Math 2 or 3. Formerly, that may have been known as Geometry or Algebra 2, and it really just depends on what they were taking this year. That's not to say that they have to double up. They would be fine taking Math 2 as a sophomore and Math 3 as a junior, and then a 4th level math as a senior. Science, physical science, biology, or chemistry may be an option for sophomore year. If a student is taking standard or science this year, they're probably going to proceed into physical science. That would be the next area for them to go into, because it's going to help build their strengths and their skill set. Other students that may be taking honors or science this year would go into biology honors. And then they may have some other options as well for science. And then most students will take American History 1 next year as a sophomore, although they will have another option that will be brand new for your group of students. They could choose to take AP European History. That's going to be a 1-semester AP course, and that's really kind of their first opportunity to test out the college waters. And then they will have electives, and they will have a total of 8 classes that they're going to be choosing from next year. Again, find that balance between strong grades and rigor. In biology, again, this is from some of the sophomore teachers. Biology, they suggested expect at least 30 minutes of homework per night. They're going to go at a faster pace during class. You must pass the EOC to receive credit. And there are going to be less organizational grades, less notebook grades. Now, that's still in place, and some teachers still do that, but there's just less of that. English 2, do your summer reading assignment. And then you must pass the EOC in English 2 as well. So there's 2 EOCs during sophomore year. And then for math, the key word is perseverance, is what the math department said. Making sure that your students really stick to it. When the going gets tough, they keep on going, they keep pushing. They go and access their resources. They ask their teachers. They go to Smart Period. They ask questions. And then I'm not going to go through all these, but for academic success, just know that there are a lot of things that don't necessarily come naturally to your students. If your student's really, really bright, they may not have had to study in the past. They may have to learn how to study. If your student struggles academically, again, they may have to learn how to study. So both tiers of students may be learning the same skill set. So you may have to help walk them through some of these skills alongside their teacher. And certainly telling the teacher what deficits you're seeing from home. And making sure they use the digital resources that they're comfortable with. For testing, every sophomore will take a plan test. That is a pre-ACT, and they will take that in October of their sophomore year. They don't have to register for it. It's a free test in the state of North Carolina, but they will all be required to take that. And then the PSAT will be optional. So that's a pre-SAT to get them kind of used to the format of both of those tests. The PSAT is not free, and they do have to sign up for that. But again, that'll be in October of sophomore year. The sign-ups usually start late August, early September for that test. They will take an English 2 EOC and a biology EOC, as I mentioned. And then testing for college admission. Again, they either need to take an ACT or an SAT to get into a 4-year university. For the majority of universities, there's a few out there that you can get in other ways without admission testing. There are also SAT subject tests. As a sophomore, some sophomores take the subject test. Those are specialized in academic content areas. So for instance, they have a world history subject test, they have a calculus subject test. They are very specific, and your student would only necessarily need to take that if they really felt like they had a strength in that area and they were trying to get into a certain program or a certain college. And as I mentioned before, North Carolina has minimum admission requirements. So although we don't require a certain GPA in order to graduate, in order to get into a university, bare minimum, students have to have a 2.5 GPA. They also have to have a minimum of a 17 on the ACT and an 800 with only using 2 portions of the SAT. So this is excluding the writing portion, so critical reading and math only. Extracurricular, and I'm not going to go all through this, but it is important. It not only helps organization, it helps with leadership, it helps the college get to know your student, gets to know their preferences, gets to know if they can stick to something. So extracurricular activities are important, and they do provide several different skill sets for your students going to college and into the workforce. The North Carolina graduation requirements, again, 4 Englishes, 4 maths, 3 sciences, 4 social studies, and so it's pretty much 4 of each, but your students can take above and beyond that as well. Health and PE, 1 is required. And then they also have to pick a concentration. And so that concentration is what the panel is going to help with in a few minutes, talking about what options they have within their departments. But we have a lot to choose from. There's 14 different concentrations. They must also pass their final exams, and they must be CPR certified in order to graduate, or at least go through the training. Here are the different elective options for concentration. So there are PE concentrations all the way to automotive service concentrations, health sciences, there are art concentrations. So there are a variety of things, and really the basis behind this is so that your students can start to get a sense of whether they really like something and whether they have skills in that area. We also have options that will open up to your students as sophomores for distance learning. And so your students will be able to choose not only from the classes that we offer here on campus, but they can also take classes, not sophomore year, but junior year and senior year from AB Tech. But sophomore year, they can also choose to take classes online through our online provider, NCVPS. And so there's information on our website about NCVPS, and their curriculum guide is very easily accessible. And they have some classes that we do not offer here. And this just talks about some of the options at AB Tech. It's called Career and College Promise. Students can get free classes from AB Tech while they're in high school, and they can take those classes with only having to pay for their books. In some classes, they don't even have to pay for that. And some of the books do run a little expensive, but you're not having to pay tuition. And I've already mentioned why to choose a career cluster. Again, it's to see if your students have a skill set and an interest in certain areas. And here are the 14 different career clusters. And the one thing that I'll point out in here, finance is one of the career clusters, but we don't have a completer class in that career concentration at this point. So they can certainly take classes in that interest area, but they may have to, or will have to choose a different concentration that they will take 4 classes in. There are also several different honors possibilities in our CTE program, and CTE is Career and Technical Education. And so you can see all these classes listed up here. Your student would be integrated into a class. It's one classroom, but some students may be taking a standard curriculum, and some students would be taking an honors curriculum, and they would sign, and some of your students may be doing that this year. But you can see that there are a lot of different options up there if your student's wanting to make their schedule more rigorous. We have these planning worksheets. These are also on our website. And your student can start plotting out. They can go ahead and check off, okay, I've already had health and PE. I took that fall semester of my freshman year. They can go ahead and check the classes off that they've already accomplished. And this is just another portion. This is what the registration card will look like. It's very similar to what you guys got last year. It's got several more classes on it because as 8th graders, there were not as many options. And so you can see front and back side, there are many dozen more options for sophomores. And then registration housekeeping. There are a few classes that are only for sophomores, so that we want to introduce you to. Literature and the Environment is one of those. AP European History that I've already mentioned. A college readiness course that's by AB Tech, and we'll have a speaker come in just a minute about that. AP Chemistry is not going to be offered next year, and really your students for the most part, don't have the classes, the prerequisites to get into that yet. We're going to offer AP Biology for students that do have those prerequisites. And then make sure that, again, you're getting your student to go and talk to their teachers to say, do you think that I'm ready to move on to AP level? Because they see their work ethic and they see their skill set. And then again, here's the breakdown of counselors and administrators, so that you know who to contact, and several different websites that can be helpful. And so at this point, I'm going to turn everything over to our panel, maybe start with Mr. Carpenter that can introduce his department.
I'm going to introduce Mr. Fide.
Okay, introduce Mr. Fide.
My name is Brian Fide. I am with the Social Studies Department. Mr. Carpenter is as well. He's been teaching Americans 1, I believe. And apparently I am AP Land. I am the World History AP teacher currently. And though we will be transitioning away from AP World History, we'll be moving instead towards European. So for rising sophomores, it's a relatively simple track for us. If you are not planning to take the AP classes, then you will go into Americans 1 or American 1 Honors. If you are planning to take the AP track, it's a little more complicated, but not too terribly bad. Most will probably choose to use AP European. It is going to be a single semester. We're going to plan on teaching it only in the fall. Myself and Mr. Boyd in the Freshman Academy will likely be taking those courses. We are going to go ahead and keep World History AP on the registration materials, but that class would only meet if there were enough people to satisfy the minimum requirements. And so that'll just have to be a decision that's made a little bit later on. For the 11th grade year, it is the second half then of Americans 2, and you kind of need to be aware of that. There are the 2 that are required, and one is a sophomore level course, the other is a junior level course. And of course, if you are in the AP track, your junior year you would move into AP US History, which is a 2-semester course, and that satisfies both the North Carolina graduation requirements. Senior year, way too far in the future, and all kinds of fun. Lots of options for that, and so that's probably for a later meeting. So, if you have any questions, myself and Mr. Carpenter will be available afterwards. I do have a little, I guess, little literature for you. It's kind of the tracks there to make it nice and simple for everybody.
I'm Kevin Keene with the Science Department. Just going to reiterate a few things that Ms. Parham said and maybe give you a few other things. First of all, for graduation, 3 sciences are required. So earth science, biology, and a physical science, which could be the class physical science, or chemistry, or physics. So all of those classes would meet the physical science requirement. We do have 3 basic, I guess, tracks you could call it, or sequences, depending on where you are as a freshman. Most likely, if you are in Earth Science Standard, you're going to take physical science next year, and then biology as a junior, and that would satisfy your 3, and then beyond that, you could take chemistry and or physics, or potentially you might have room for an AP class. If you are in Earth Science Honors right now, you would most likely take Biology Honors as a sophomore, and depending on how you've done, your goals, etc., then Chemistry Honors could also be next year, or it could be as a junior, and then that's going to satisfy your 3, and then beyond that, you have AP courses, which I'll talk more about in a second. And then lastly, some freshmen might be doing Earth Science Honors and Biology Honors right now, and if so, then they would most likely go on to Chemistry Honors, and after that, Physics or AP Physics, or other APs. And real quickly, some of our APs, like Ms. Parham said, our AP Chemistry and Biologies are on an every other year basis. That started last year, and so this year started this year. AP Chemistry was offered, next year AP Biology, then the next year AP Chemistry, next year AP Biology, and so you really need to kind of plan ahead if that's kind of the direction you're looking for, when you might want to be able to take those as juniors or seniors most likely. Also, we have AP Physics, and that's, there's AP Physics 1 and AP Physics 2. You can take just 1, or you can take 1 and 2. So there's options there. And then also there's AP Environmental Science, which is a little different than it's a semester class. And that one, it could be taken as early as sophomore year, depending on what they've had, and most likely junior and or senior. So there's a lot of options as you move on. And I guess, like Ms. Parham said, you really need to think about, it's not too early to think about what you want to do in the future, what type of college you might want to attend. Different states, different colleges have different requirements in terms of science, like chemistry or physics, etc. And I too have an information sheet, and I think maybe if I just leave it up here towards the front.
You passed out.
I have them, so.
Passed out. Okay, so.
If anybody needs one, I can bring it to you.
Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
I think she was getting a paper.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Mary Smith, and I am in career and technical education. I'm a family and consumer science teacher. It's kind of funny because I have parents that are coming in now that I had as students. I've been here a really long time. I teach Apparel 1, Apparel 2, Early Childhood 1, and Early Childhood 2. We actually have a preschool here on campus, and I direct the preschool and teach the high school students that work with my preschoolers. Basically, my goal for every student that walks in my door is that I touch base on as many different areas in early childhood, which could be not only just working in preschool, but being in pediatrics. I have students who've graduated who are neonatal nurses, who work in child psychology, elementary education, but it gives them that first step. It helps them see, is this what I'm interested in? I had a student this semester who didn't think she wanted to work with kids. She wants to do occupational therapy. Worked in the daycare center for a semester and has fallen in love with our kids and has decided to do pediatric occupational therapy. So that's my goal for my kids. Apparel and textile production is a class that they do learn construction. They also learn about textiles. NC State comes and we actually work with the chemistry classes because the textile industry is humongous and is growing every day because of technology. And so those are the things that we touch base on. And basically to try to help your students kind of narrow down what they're interested in, seeing as how they're going to have to work and do this for a very long time. Being successful, part of that is loving what you do. They say, you know, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. My goal is to help your students find out what they do love, and the two courses that I do teach are apparel and textile production and early childhood. So if you guys ever have any questions, I am in career and technical education. Thank you.
I'm actually going to tell you about two different programs that we have to offer in career technical education. My name is Jill Sizemore, and I teach foods in the Family and Consumer Science department. Relatively popular class because everybody thinks they're going to get to come and eat. And I see some of my very bright, shining stars from first semester in here tonight. We do have a very good time in our class, but we learn a life skill. My class can be offered as an honors course. So please don't think that if your student comes to take a career and technical education class that it's going to hurt their GPA in any way. We offer all of our courses, I think all of them, are available as an honors credit. They do have to do some of that work independently outside of class, but that is available to them and can help them keep their high GPA and their class rank while attaining something that they're going to use for the rest of their life. We do want to have students who are career and college ready, and I think that being that we all eat 3 times a day for the rest of our lives, learning to cook early on in life is beneficial to our students. They can save themselves a lot of money over time. We start our class, it's very basic. We learn safety and sanitation. We go on to basic measuring and recipe reading. We actually even do a whole section, much to their dismay, on etiquette and manners. And hopefully that helps them in some social setting in the future. Most all of them at some point will attend the prom. And I hope that that evening, while they're all dressed up and looking their finest, that they're comfortable wherever they go to dinner, possibly in an interview setting in the future where they need to have good manners. We do talk about nutrition along the way. I don't try to force them into anything, but I do encourage them to lay off the fast food as much as possible and try to make things themselves a bit healthier. If they choose to take Foods 1, they can go on and take Foods 2, which can either be Foods 2 Enterprise, which focuses on the the business aspect of restaurants, or they can go into foods to technology, which focuses on the science of food. And it's a lot of fun. They do a lot of experiments in there. But in those classes, they can get certifications that can help them get pay increases at jobs in the future. In Foods to Enterprise, they all have the opportunity to take the ServSafe exam. And I'm sure everyone's familiar with the sanitation rating at all restaurants. And the restaurants all have to have someone who is ServSafe certified on each shift that they are open. So that does make them marketable to future employers. And in the end, we are looking for them to have something that they can fall back on for self-sufficiency for the rest of their life, whether that be a job in the food service industry or just learning to love to cook themselves. Another option that we have in the Career Technical Education Department is the healthcare industry. If you have a child who is interested in any aspect of the healthcare industry, the teachers who teach that class are furthering their education today, and they're at a conference in Raleigh, so they weren't able to come tonight. But we offer healthcare, and the reason it's very important for rising 10th graders is that it's kind of a long track. If you want to do the whole thing, you need to start early, because we have Healthcare 1, Healthcare 2, and then in the end, they can, Nursing Fundamentals is the name of the class, where they actually attain their CNA certification at the end of that class by doing all of the requirements that they would need to get that CNA certification. And they go out into the community, into care facilities, and act as CNAs along the way, so they get true hands-on application. We also have biomedical technology classes. We have only offered Biomed Tech 1 so far, but the capability is there for Biomed Tech 2. These kids love the forensic sciences and all of the wonderful things that they see on television dealing with crime scenes and everything. This class teaches all about anything to do with the study of medicine in any way. So that's another great class for them to consider taking. I do believe that the Biomed Tech 2 class does require biology as a prerequisite, though. So you might, if they're interested in that, they need to look towards that. Anytime you want to come and see what we do down in Family and Consumer Sciences, we also offer interior design, parenting, and is that because you cover, and then Ms. Monty, and then Mrs. Isgrig and I cover the foods classes. So we are down there. Come and visit us, and maybe you'll come on a tasting day.
I'm Mark Scott. I teach automotive service. We are a ASC certified program, have been for about 15 years now. I have 4 offerings. Of course, each one building on the other. Everybody starts with an intro class. It can start as early as a 9th grader, but and they can progress on up to a senior. We also can offer advanced study for seniors, and then, of course, have to do a project in that course. We work closely with the industry locally, maintain an advisory board. Currently, our curriculum is strongly dictated to us by industry. So it's not just something we do as we go along. We are teaching a little bit about all 8 general repair areas in automotive. Internship is possible. Some part-time jobs, depends on the student and their transportation. ASE, if you're familiar with that, where you have your car work done, of course, it's a certification organization. And what that means for your student is training in an ASE program is that they are prepared for certification. I don't offer the certification. I can't test that. I have to test myself. But I can prepare them for the certification. Of course, any certification they obtain can help their salary level. And they are prepared for entry-level jobs, but I strongly encourage after high school that they go on to community colleges or other training areas, because in the high school situation, we have limited time and still cover a lot of things, but we are taking them from very beginnings up to a certain level, and I encourage them to take it on from there. We also encourage not just working on cars, there's diesel, there's so many things in the automotive area that you can get into. I even encourage people to get associate degrees so they can, as they work on cars and move along in their careers, they can actually become managers, run their own business. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Sure. No, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm the last guy with CTE. We only got about 200 courses we can ask around here tonight. Back up? Here. Okay. She told me to back up. All right, my name's Jim Galloway. I'm in the business, finance, and information technology part of career technical education. That's pretty self-explanatory. We offer everything from accounting to personal finance to marketing to just anything you can think of in the business world, and everything that happens with all these other teachers and all these courses, it all comes down to business at some point. You know, the dollar makes everything run. CTE, learning that is right for North Carolina, learning that is right for T.C. Roberson High School. CTE, Career Technical Education, we can be the lead singer or we can be the backup singer. Each and every one of our classes go hand in hand with everything that's in here. But there are these teachers behind us. We can't get through any of our classes without math. We cannot get through any of our classes without science. We can't get through any of our classes with the creativity, building websites, without the art classes. We can be the lead singer and give your student the ability to check out what they might want to do. We offer a look into many, many, many different careers. But the one thing we promise we're going to do for you is we're going to make your student a better student, because we're going to work hand in hand. What happens in career technical education is dependent on what happens in the academic core courses and vice versa. Thank you.
Now, I'm supposed to be right here. And if I go over there, I'm not here. Okay. I'm Chris Semper, and I teach Latin, and I represent the foreign language department. And we have Spanish at the school. We have Chinese, and we have Latin still being taught after a few millennia for some fine students out there. We take Spanish all the way through level 4. And Chinese as well, and Latin goes through level 4. Levels 3 and 4 are honors level courses. We feel it depends on the student as to whether or not they begin the foreign language as a freshman or sophomore, and I know the counselors have already addressed that with you. Students have probably already chosen their foreign language. I think we have a fantastic department because we all are very passionate about our languages. Our Spanish teachers have spent time abroad. They have a Spanish club, and they're an active group. Mrs. Lin in Chinese does a fantastic job, of course. And we have a Latin program, and we have a junior classical league, which is a Latin club. So one good thing, and we take trips abroad also to both Italy or Costa Rica pretty annually. So we feel like we have an enthused and passionate department. We can meet the needs of the students, and all they have to do is figure out what foreign language is right for them. So clearly, if they've already taken Spanish at the middle school and have enjoyed it, that decision may be made. If they're not certain, they could check out Chinese. And if you feel like your life is missing something, you're sad, there's whole disappointment, well, that would be the Latin room right there for you. Latin is where we teach grammar, mythology, history, vocabulary. I think it's the place. I'm not prepared to say that we would eliminate all the other disciplines, but I'm thinking about saying that. So anyway, we are very passionate about what we do, and I'll say one more thing just to add to this. This is my personal opinion. One young man who's a senior, as he was leaving class one day, I asked him if he had any regrets about his, a very wise young man, I should say, a very accomplished young man. I said, academically, I said, do you have any regrets? And he said, yeah, you know what? If I had the chance, I would probably do something more in terms of clubs on the side at this school. Now, his words were, he said, I realized kind of too late that high school is one of the last places where you can try something out like that for free. And I thought, yeah, maybe so, but more importantly, you have all kinds of opportunities out there for you, and this is an amazing school. In case you can't tell, we have academics, we have athletics, there are arts programs, CT, whatever you want to undertake, there's an avenue for you to try it out and put yourself out there, and it may be life-changing, or you may decide, you know what, this isn't for me, but you at least gave it a try and didn't leave any kind of regrets on the table. So if anybody has any questions about foreign language, I'll try to answer them. But if you have a question about Latin, right here.
All right, mine's less exciting. It's about math. I'm Nathan Arby from the math department. Yeah, that's true. Pretty much most rising sophomores are sitting in one of two places. You're either in Math 1 or you're in Math 2 honors. If you're in Math 1, you will go to Math 2 next year. And then Math 3 your junior year, and then typically you would pick one of two courses your senior year. You can take discrete mathematics, or you can take another new college prep course called Essentials of College Math, which is, we're kind of sort of starting to try to get enrollment increased in that. It's just more geared towards the college math that's actually being taught right now. If you're sitting in an honors class, you kind of have a few more options. Normally you'll take Math 3 honors next year, take pre-cal or discrete honors your junior year, and then you've got calculus if you took pre-cal for your senior year, or you could take AP stats as well your senior year. One thing that the math department did ask that we mention, some 10th graders want to try to go ahead and put their Math 3 honors and their pre-cal in their 10th grade year. That's fine as long as you've got a plan. It's just highly recommend that you take calculus your senior year. You don't want to leave a gap there. So if you want to do Math 3 honors and pre-cal in your 10th grade year, if you really want to kind of load your classes down like that, you'll just need to take AP stats your junior year and calculus your senior year. So that's just sort of our recommendation. You can kind of jump back and forth if you are sitting in the standard track right now in that Math 1 and you'd like to get into the honors track. That's typically done your junior year. You would take Math 3 your junior year in the fall, and then you can take discrete honors in your junior year. That way you can kind of get into an AP stat class there in your senior year. Other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory to go from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3. So if you have any questions, though, you can let me and Ms. Boyd know, and we'd be happy to answer them for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sorry. Great job. I'm Andy Morgan in Health and PE. Obviously, hopefully you guys are finishing up your 1 PE requirement as we're speaking, or have done so. You need to understand something about our PE department, and I'm extremely passionate about it, and these people know we're probably the most structured PE department that I know I've ever seen. We all are extremely passionate people. We all are coaches. We offer advanced PE, which is largely sports education, a lot of lifetime sports, golf, bowling, tennis. You know, these kids think they're going to be able to play football and basketball forever, but obviously they're not going to be able to do that. Sooner or later, they're going to be, hobbling around like me and Coach Devine. But every day, there's, we tend to, there's an aerobic fitness component, there's a muscular strength component, muscular endurance and flexibility every single day in freshman PE all the way through. Advanced PE is if someone likes the freshman PE course and they don't like the health, which the boys definitely, they don't like the health part. Girls typically do much better, no offense. But there's no health ed as they move up. And then if you really want to intensify things, then you sign up for weight training. I teach all the girls' weight trainings, all the female athletes, and anybody else that wants to come in. I feel like, once again, we have one of the most structured weight training and sports areas.
Parents here, when we talk about college today, is our group has given out over the last 10 years over $100,000 in scholarships to all our seniors that are pursuing their college dreams and objectives. It's, like I mentioned, selective class. You can take it. I have students that take it from their 9th grade all the way through the 12th grade. I have students that take it for a semester, whenever. It's open at any time to any students, and it's, again, it's giving you those skills to be successful. All the things you heard about today, how do you be successful after high school? That's the goal of our class, is to give you those skills so when our students leave, they can take on any task or endeavor that they want to. So thank you for your time.
All right, I'm Miriam Tain. I'm representing the fine arts. I teach, we offer a lot of courses in art. We go from Art 1 all the way to AP Art. We teach Art 2, Art 3, which focuses on painting. We teach a 3D design course. And Mr. Clark, the other fine arts teacher, teaches photography classes, and he incorporates a lot of computer work in there. We also have a lot of other programs in the fine arts. We have a wonderful chorus department, band, and theater program, which I was asked to talk about. It's not only the acting side of it, it's also the backstage part of it, set design and stuff like that. So if your student's not maybe interested in acting, but they like to kind of work behind the scenes, you can get involved in that also. But we're running out of time, so I'm done.
I have a couple privilege tonight to have two of our district coaches here with us, our literacy coach and our math coach, who would like to take a few minutes and share with you. I think a lot of you've noticed in your math classes, it's different than when we were in school. And so that's what they would like to share a little bit about. And then following this session, they will also be here to answer any questions that you might have regarding some of the shifts in instruction in math curriculum and in our English language arts. Laura Meyer is our literacy coach, and then Karen McPherson is our math coach for our district.
Primarily, my job is to work with the high school math teachers. So I work purely in the math department, both here and at a few other schools. And my job is to help support them as they begin to implement some changes that have happened within our state. About 3 years ago, we adopted new standards. I'm sure your students have faced those once they went into a Math 1 instead of an Algebra 1. And now some of them are they're in Math 2, or they're going into Math 2 instead of geometry. And what happened to Algebra 2? So those are some changes that happened at the state level in that we are implementing some new standards. So all I'm going to share with you right now is, what do those changes mean for math education? What do those changes mean for the teachers and the students? First, it meant that we had new standards that we needed to focus on. Math education has always been said it's a mile wide and an inch deep. That students had to learn the same thing over and over again because they didn't get a deep understanding of it. So the new standards, K-12, is to address that. So our teachers in Math 1, 2, and 3 are really having to focus on some new standards that help deepen our students' understanding so they're college and career ready. That leads into a second shift in mathematics, which is coherence. We want to make sure that our courses make sense. That Math 1 leads into ideas from Math 2, and that Math 2 leads into ideas from Math 3. And that all of these tie in together and it makes sense for the students. They don't sit in classes and saying, I've never seen this before. But that teachers are being more diligent in making connections for their students. And then finally, we're looking that we're taking our instruction and making sure that they have a deep conceptual understanding of the mathematics that they're learning. Because if they really understand the math, then the procedural fluency will come. If they really understand why they have to add 3 to both sides of an equation, then whenever they have to add 4 to both sides, they'll be able to do that. That's the idea of conceptual understanding, really leading to them being good with procedures. And then finally, it doesn't help to learn any mathematics if you don't know how to apply it. So your students do a lot of real-world application, both in class and in homework. It's something that teachers here at TC are working really hard on, is to make sure that they're making the mathematics have an application to some real-world problems. There are some standards for mathematical practice. We are one of the very few academic areas that not only have content, like you need to be able to solve equations, but we also have practice standards. These are things that you have to be able to do in mathematics in order to be good at solving problems. And so we have 8 practices. So the teachers are really changing up their practice, changing up their instruction, changing their curriculum so that they can meet these needs and help make our students more college and career ready. I'm going to let Ms. Meyer talk about the ELA standards.
I'm Laura Meyer, and I'm TC's instructional coach, and what I do is I'm a teacher who works with my fellow teachers to implement the latest research-based instructional practices. You'll notice up here that it says ELA/literacy. There are new standards for all teachers, not just math and not just English. Science, social studies, CTE, so forth and so on, all have new standards as well. Not only do they have new content standards, but they have new literacy standards, which involve reading, writing, thinking, and speaking in their classes. And these are the 3 big shifts when it comes to ELA and other classes, well, the other ones I just used, in their literacy instruction. The first shift is that we're seeing a lot more nonfiction and informational text reading across the board, not just the English class. And then that reading is heavy in content. So you're not just reading to read in science class, you're reading scientific material. And the same thing is said across the other content areas. The second shift is evidence from the text. You're going to see our students being asked to find evidence that back up arguments they're reading and to use evidence when they're writing using argumentation. Because that's what they're going to see a lot of later in life. And the final shift is that the text they are reading in all classes is much more complex now. And with that complexity comes a real focus on academic vocabulary, and that falls into 2 categories. They're going to see a lot of content vocabulary, but they're also going to see some complex vocabulary across all contents. They need to know what those words mean.
We took the standards and we decided to look at what the old standards from 2003 look like compared to the new ones in 2013. And this visual shows that before, in mathematics, we primarily just wanted students to solve. Give them a problem, teach them how to solve it, and then give them lots of practice with it so they get really good at solving it. But you see that our new standards have a different focus. We still want them to solve. That word is there, that absolutely got to be able to do that. But now they also have to be able to understand, they have to be able to interpret, and they have to be able to use. And so because we're asking something different of our students, we're asking something different of our teachers. So those classrooms are changing because of those standards.
We did the same thing in ELA literacy, and these are words. And so the words that occur most often in the standards are going to be the ones that blow up bigger right here. And you'll see in our old standards that comprehension was of the utmost importance. It's still important. Your student has to understand, but that's a lower level thinking skill. So if you look at the new standards, look what else is big. Analyze, support, argue, evaluate. Those are the upper levels of, you may recognize Bloom's taxonomy. And
instruction. And that's where it comes down to the teacher. The way that the teacher is teaching is the way that is supposed to work best for your student and work best for the goals that we're trying to obtain. So you may hear these three words are a little bit different. Standards is just what they need to know. Curriculum is the material that we're using to teach it. And instruction is how the teachers are making connections to the students. We know it's about time to close, and we appreciate that you've stayed a little bit longer to hear what we have to share with you. We are going to head to the media center, so if you have any additional questions, we can be there to address them at that time.
Again, thank you for being here tonight. All of the teachers that were here with us tonight, every teacher here at Roberson, we all have, if you go to Roberson's website, every teacher has a link to their own website, to their email, for a wealth of information and all of the different content areas. So you're welcome to email me, anyone in our counseling department. We'll be happy to help you any way we can. Thank you for being here.